So we have the new Zack Snyder film, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, with a long ass title. Now on Netflix. So, what did I think about this movie? So, basically, with this movie, Zack Snyder had a pitch for Star Wars, took it to Lucasfilm, and they said no to his pitch. So, Netflix went ahead and picked it up, and that's how we get Rebel Moon. And very much so, while watching this movie definitely plays out like familiar Star Wars movies. Has all the Star Wars vibes, but really it's more Star Wars with more of an kind of like edge to it. So basically, just like Star Wars, we have the Empire of sorts in this movie that comes to this farmer planet and basically is trying to take over, take their food and all that. Just basically trying to take over. And we have the Sophia Butella character who actually goes off world to planet and tries recruiting people to join her alliance, join her force to actually go up against the whole Empire forces. While she's like basically going from planet to planet trying to recruit, which is basically about the second act. With each new character she visits or tries to recruit, we get a little tease of their special skills that they maybe in part two we'll actually see those actual special skills on display again. But for the rest of the movie, we just get a tease of their skills and we don't even get to see them do those skills again throughout the rest of the movie. And really with these characters that she's recruiting, like I get their side characters and basically Sophia Botella's character is like at the forefront of all this. But I just feel like we didn't even get enough time with those characters that she was recruiting. There was like no development with them. We didn't even really get to know about them. They just felt like background. And honestly, when she was recruiting them, it only felt like we were with them for like a minute or so, or a couple minutes. That's it. Like it really went by really fast. Where she just goes and meets these characters, she recruits them really fast. She doesn't even necessarily explain everything that was going on. Like it was kind of like she'll explain to one person, you'll see explain to one person, and she goes to another person. It's not even explain what she's recruiting them for, and just get like a tease of their special skill. That's it. And it was like just happening so fast, like fast, and not really spending time with these characters, getting to know them or anything. So I mean, hopefully in part two they're able to fix that problem, and we actually maybe get to know these characters instead of them just being side background characters. Because I felt like we got no time with these characters, no development with these characters. They were just there. There was even this one character who was part of the whole Empire forces, and like he actually felt bad and like kind of switched sides in the second, for a second, and like literally was trying to defend and help out Sofia Botella's character for a second in the beginning of the movie. And I don't even know what happened to his character. Like he completely was wiped out. I will say though, the main villain of this movie, which is Ed Skrein's character, honestly was a very good villain. Like he was one of those villains that you really couldn't stand, that you really like to hate on. So honestly, pretty good villain on his part. And of course, with this being a Zack Snyder movie, you can expect a lot of slow motion shots. There were definitely a lot of slow motion shots in this movie. It even felt like a couple of slow motion shots weren't even necessary. It was kind of funny watching those slow motion shots, and it didn't even feel like they need to be in slow motion, so it was kind of funny to see those. But also too, with the slow motion, there was also a couple awesome epic scenes in slow motion. So, and Zack Snyder is a visual director, so there's a lot of great visuals in this movie and throughout this movie, and a lot of great scenes and a lot of great visuals that were going on, especially when it comes to like seeing different scenery, when it comes to the different planets they're visiting. Honestly, it looks pretty awesome. And this very much feels, like I was saying, it feels like a Star Wars movie, vibes of Star Wars. It definitely feels like a Star Wars movie, but with the aesthetics of Zack Snyder. But also, I kind of feel like it was kind of rushed through some of the acts. Like Act 1 honestly was pretty good. It was like slow and developing a little bit, and you got to like actually know basically some of these characters and basically know what's going to happen, or like what you're going to see what's going to happen. But when it came to like Act 2 and like Act 3, it kind of felt a little rushed in some parts, a lot throughout those two acts. But honestly, Act 3 was actually pretty good when it came to some action set pieces, and pretty awesome epic action scenes going on. And when it was getting closer to the end of the movie, it almost felt like it could have almost ended. But the way they ended off, they actually, leave off, not necessarily a cliffhanger, but they leave off on some unanswered questions, and they leave off with basically a little hint to part two. But when it comes down to it, did I like this movie? I would say that I like it enough to actually check out part two. I think it did set up some interesting stuff and some stuff that I'm actually kind of intrigued in. Overall, I'll say it's a solid watch with a couple of misses here and there. But yeah, like I was saying, I think it's at least a solid watch to where I'm actually kind of interested in where this is going. So I would at least check out part two. I already know that Zack Snyder has said that there is going to be I think he said like 3 hour director's cut. And that's kind of been the norm. If you know Zack Snyder, that's kind of been the norm. He always has a director's cut, always, pretty much, with every movie that he's doing. But yeah, I don't know exactly when that director's cut is coming, but supposedly it's going to be 3 hours, rated R, and have more additional scenes and other stuff going on in there. So usually with his director cuts, they end up being a little bit better than the original movie. So we'll see if that's actually the trend with that director's cut and see how that one actually is. But if you ask me if I would recommend this movie, I would say if you're a Zack Snyder fan, if you like his movies, then you probably would maybe like this one. For casual movie people, I would say maybe you could find some stuff in here that you like. If you're like kind of interested in Star Wars with an edge, then maybe you can find something in here. But as for me, like I said, I think it's at least a solid enough watch to have me interested and kind of intrigued to see what happens next. So I'll be checking out part two at least.